mildly.
I have invited a new guest. Brian White. He's been around the Tesla community for a long time now, and I finally decided to invite him on. Brian, what do you think? Okay, all right,
It's
okay.
great to be here. I'm so excited. I'm nervous. It's so new and exciting.
And it has been kind of another exciting day today. We're already up like 12 or 13 points after being up 12 points on Friday. I mean, come on, this is how much further can it go?
There is theoretically no limit, so that'll be a topic I will ask you about on a show on my channel because there is headroom. When you bet against a company, it can only go to zero. The maximum gain, but on the upside, it's tougher to say as the once wealthy short sellers determined in the 2019 through 2020. So
Right.
couldn't have happened to a nicer bunch of folks.
That's right. That's right. And may it happen to us again. So in about when I started the channel, in fact, I think I should go back and look in the book and in the mission book and see whether or not I started then to talk about this. But if not, it was right after I started the channel that the year when everything would come together would be 2026. And then in 2026, all these different things would be finished. They'd be out there, they'd be ramped up, and we'd really begin to see, the maximum, I don't know, what would you call it? The optimum level of productivity across all the lines that had already been invented, created, were in process. And I kept on pushing that narrative, pushing that narrative, pushing that narrative. Now we've got 2025, and everybody's kind of feeling like 2025 will be the year that the street gets it, that the street begins to go, oh, we get it. In 2026, things are really going to happen. So my question is 2027.
Hmm.
Oh, no, 2027. Nobody's even talking about 2027. It's like 2026 comes and Tesla just, that's just the future, way out there someplace. So, Brian, here's my thesis. I know that I'm doing a lot of talking here and not letting you jump in, but my thesis is very simple. When Robotaxi happens, when Elon says, let's go, that is going to be the fork in the road. Do we agree on that?
Yes, that is absolutely a good description. Now, I'll be honest, I tuned you out for most of it. You were going on for too long. I don't know. No, but you're absolutely right. Um, when you look at a projection graph into the future, you see a range. Anyone who doesn't provide a range on their future estimates isn't considering the realities. There is a worst case and a best case, and ideally you should be somewhere in that range. Ideally, your projections, you should be right in the middle of it. And I hope to be not in the middle of it. I hope that my projection is the very bottom edge, because when I include possibilities like Robotaxi, like Optimus, the top end of the range gets insane. It
Insane.
gets
Yeah.
it gets insane. Now the question is, if Tesla is the first to a mass-produced Robotaxi, how long of an advantage does that give them? How big of an advantage? The other guys are going to have to figure out, well, first they're going to have to bring the competency in-house. You can do it with a third party, but now you've got more fingers in the pie. That's not going to help you. That's going to drive up your costs, limit your use cases, and kind of scale everything back. But if you've got an in-house capacity to manufacture, my gosh, what an advantage you will have, what a moat you will create. And if we're comparing, let's say it's 2027
Mhm.
and Robotaxi is ready for mass deployment, but Waymo is also ready for mass deployment. Which one are you going to buy? The $25,000 one or the $150,000 one? Well, yeah, but the $150,000 one has adjustable headrests. Okay, I would argue that the utility is worth less than $125,000 premium, but what do I know? So yes, I would agree
Okay.
that the fork is there and that a lot of the questions and assumptions we're making I saw some joker in the comments the other day say, well, I guess the 50% year-over-year growth Elon promised isn't going to happen. I said, I think you might have missed the last 8 earnings calls because uh, this is a gap year. We knew that. And this is a turning point. The question of how many cars did you sell is about to become less relevant.
And yet, I'm now going to make the case that how many cars are you selling will become more relevant. So let's go ahead and take a look at mid 2025. And we get, to July, maybe even the 4th of July this year, as opposed to in the 250-year celebration that follows the next year. But anyway, somewhere this summer, Elon Musk says, it's done. Here's the app. Push the button. Here we go. Robotaxis can fly out there. And we're not going to discuss today whether that's how it's actually going to happen. Brian, I continue to believe in the theory that Elon will want to anyway. But let's go on from there. Up until Elon says those words, the people, not only you and I, but also I think the C-suite at Tesla has to look at 2 possible directions that the road could take. One is if we don't get FSD, if we don't get robotaxis going, we still have to figure out how to sell all this metal. Or if we get FSD rolling, we will never again have to figure out how to sell all this metal. Now I'm going to divide that into 2 parts, because if we don't, what do I mean by we never have to figure out again how to sell all this metal? Well, because anything that we don't sell, we'll just put into our own fleet. Now, I've been arguing for 2 or 3 weeks that maybe longer than that once FSD is solved, the demand will go dramatically up just because people will want FSD. They'll want the chauffeured car. They'll want that special thing to show their neighbor, first adopters, all that kind of stuff. But also there'll be all the entrepreneurs and others who will want to put cars in the fleet. So the demand for the basic vehicle with FSD will go up dramatically. But then additionally, you got a few 100,000 left over, just put them out in the Tesla fleet. So what do you think? Is this fork in the road theory of mine sound?
Yes, but it's pretty straightforward. Either it's solved or it isn't. If it's not solved by mid 25, which I think is a very strong possibility, no concern on my end. I'm not expecting it that soon. When it is done, they will build them at any pace they can and move every unit. I don't expect early models to be 25 or even 30,000. I think you might as well, as Tesla always has, start at the high end and work down while production's ramping. Start them at 50,000, 60,000. People will find use cases for them where it makes sense, and they will sell every unit. And, if buyers get bitter because, well, I paid a premium to be the first company to have it, good for you. That's good. That's good. That was your choice. You knew better. And if you didn't, my gosh, watch my channel. Watch Randy's channel.
Right.
And you've got to look at it that way. And like you were saying, if they can somehow build them faster than they can sell them, they'll just keep them. They'll just keep them in-house and use them. And that's fine too.
All right. So that's why 2027 to me becomes the interesting next thing to talk about, because right now, 50% a year, it's a little easier sometimes to think of it in terms of doubling every 2 years. So doubling every 2 years, right now we're projecting 2.3, 2.4 million next year, maybe 2.5. That would be at the way outside, according to Elon. Now, it might actually be better than that, because taking into consideration what I just said, once Robotaxi comes out, the demand goes up. But let's just take the 2.4, 2.5. Well, if you double that for 2027, that's 5 million. And no matter how I cut it, no matter how I slice it, no matter how I dice it, no matter how optimistic I get, I cannot find 5 million within the walls of the buildings that Tesla now manufactures cars in.
Now I see why you brought me on.
Now you see where I'm going with this.
Yes.
Okay.
So your question is, where are you going to build them?
So what is going to happen next in order for us to get to 5 million in 2027? I'm guessing that decision gets made the day that Elon is positive that he's got FSD done. So where and when and how, where are these cars going to get built?
The question I hear you asking is, I want to build 4 million robotaxis a year at a minimum. Where? And the answer is, do you remember when Cybertruck was first unveiled and we saw the design philosophy was that it wouldn't have a traditional unibody construction? It wouldn't have an occupant cage, an occupant home that you would traditionally see. And someone made an animation showing basically metal folded, stuck together, kicked out, and it was moving very quickly. And I think Elon himself might have liked that post. It was a very cool animation. That was the idea behind Cybertruck. Cybertruck was supposed to be that easy. It's not. The design didn't work, but Robotaxi does. Robotaxi has all the pieces it needs to be very, very simple. So the first part of the answer is any footprint that would normally make a Model 3, a Model Y, certainly an S or X, can make vastly more cybercabs. So you don't need as much footprint. But with that said, even if they were to use every available inch of Giga Texas, they might be able to get out another 500,000. Maybe let's be optimistic and say 1,000,000. And you're saying we need more. Well, one answer is they would slap something together in Shanghai to serve the parts of the world with which they have free trade agreements, of which there are many, many. You know, in Shanghai, they could put up another gigafactory somewhere nearby where they've already got batteries domestically, and they would be able to produce them at a ridiculous pace. The factory would go up in a year. Cars would be coming out at full volume 24 months from groundbreaking. Then we look at Berlin. We've already got a planned expansion there. I assume that this is what it is for. That would serve the European market. I think that would come second behind the Shanghai factory because Shanghai is so good at building factories. But if you've got 1,000,000 coming out of Shanghai, 1,000,000 coming out of Berlin, and 500,000 coming out of Texas, you're already there without considering whether or not you're going to build a factory in Mexico. They still have that land. That land, Monterrey is an industrial hub. It is the factory of Mexico. They could put that together and serve all of the 50 countries with which Mexico has free trade agreements. Those cars probably could still come into the US, or definitely could come into Canada. But forgetting that, who cares? We've already got a factory in Texas that could handle the US market. This could go to all of South and Central America and also to Asia. That would be and that factory was always designed to be tremendous volume. That factory alone could do the whole thing. But where are you going to get $5 billion to put up a factory? From the piggy bank, from the petty cash drawer. Tesla has the cash. That puts them in a unique opportunity. Will there be a struggle to put together enough factories when Cybercab is ready? No, there will not.
Okay, so you're ready. We know, of course, about Mexico. I mean, we know the land is there, and we don't have the experience of trying to build a factory there, but we're assuming that there's lots of other auto manufacturers who have gone before us that would have had that experience, and we'd have some idea of how long it would take to build it. We've got India, which apparently is very, very interested again. I don't know whether this is because of the bromance between Musk and Trump or whether they just, decided they need to get in the game. But apparently, they're starting to make overtures again. Between Mexico and India, do you have a choice?
Mexico.
Mexico
100 times because India keeps stepping forward and stepping back. They keep flirting, and no more flirting. Either do it or don't. And the problem we're having there is that India has a strong domestic auto manufacturing market who are very good at greasing the wheels. And, I don't like greasy wheels. So it's difficult. It'll be difficult for any company to come in. BYD was planning to build a factory there. They were politely asked to kick rocks. And BYD said, look, the whole world wants our cars. We're not going to fight you. If you want to keep building Tatas instead, do that. And yeah, India's like, look at my Tatas.
There you go. I'm just not exactly 100% sure what that even means, but it's okay. Another show, we'll discuss it. Okay, so we have So that would be the 5 million. And I know the show is supposed to be about 2027. Um, are you looking at, you're saying you think that Mexico could be worth 4 million all by itself?
2 to 4 million is my understanding based on the original footprint that we saw and the numbers we were given at the time and the simplicity of the design of the Cybercab. So Texas could also build an additional facility at the north end of the site where they've got level, shovel ready ground. The question in the US becomes, is there an adequate supply of domestic batteries? Today, the answer is no, but we'll see what the landscape looks like in 2 years. There's a lot of capacity that was supposed to come online to provide for other manufacturers that looks like it will be underutilized. So batteries may not be the choke point we thought it was. The lithium supply is stabilized. The Corpus Christi refinery is, you could say, behind schedule, but I think they're slow rolling it because the critical necessity to get it up and running that we expected a couple of years ago when lithium prices spiked has subsided. Lithium has gotten commodity cheap again. So I think any of those possibilities, I think there's nothing but possibilities. And it's such a simple design, it would go up very quickly.
So with a little bit of an expansion in Berlin and with the Mexico factory, we really could be talking about enough capacity to take us even into 2028. And so we could really
Absolutely.
need a major expansion in some other place like India or a second factory in China until the 2029 production year.
And the beauty is, if you're selling the early models for 50 grand, but they only cost 25, that means for every one you sell, you get to keep one.
Yeah, right. In the
Eh,
in the
yeah,
fleet.
yeah, yes. So it becomes, and then all of those are generating more cash and more cash.
Yeah, one last thing. It's kind of off subject, but you reminded me of it, so I'd like to cover it for just 1 second. You do not anticipate, I believe I'm correct to say that you do not anticipate that Tesla will have its own fleet in China, that it would be that they will work through third parties in China because of the nature of the way things are set up there. Is
I
that
don't, I don't have an opinion on that. I haven't had a chance to talk with anyone who would have what I would consider a qualified opinion on that. So I will, yeah, reserve judgment on that. I don't know.
okay? So I get maybe I got it backwards. So you would believe that Baidu and others are likely to be third parties who
Oh,
would create large fleets, which
I think that China, like anywhere else, would have third-party fleets as well as in-house fleets. Partnering with those companies to give them to license the tech doesn't preclude using it yourself. Selling those cars to other providers doesn't preclude keeping your own fleet in-house either.
okay, all right. So you don't know. So you okay, that's interesting. So I was kind of in my head, I was kind of seeing China as being third party only. Do you, I mean, I see complications with having your own fleet in China.
What are
Chinese
those?
Chinese government complications
Mm,
and maybe the social mail understanding the consumer public somewhat or something.
mm. I have yet to form an opinion on that. I'm
Okay, great.
hoping to go to Shanghai in April for the Shanghai Auto Show.
Nice.
That's certainly one of the topics that I would be aggressively covering.
All right. In Shanghai Auto Show, are you looking for sometimes you're looking for ways to get there?
Yes, yes, I am looking for ways to get there. I have yet to send a request to the show itself. I've reached out only to BYD so far, and they have not responded. But there are a lot of manufacturers, and most of whom I wouldn't accept a free night in a hotel from, because if there's any expectation that it would color my coverage, I'm not accepting it because
Right,
I
right,
won't do that. I'd rather not go or find a way to privately finance it than be beholden to a company I do not believe in.
right, right. That makes perfectly good sense, Brian. All right. So 2027 seems not to be an issue. I mean, I think they're close to being able to cover that 5 million. It's just, I think that maybe 4.2, 4.3 would be probably in the bag if without doing anything. But to get to 5 million, something I think does have to happen. And they got plenty of time. But I was just curious where you thought that additional capacity might derive.
Let's talk real quick about this because it is the only issue that matters is can FSD even be solved? Someone left a comment the other day saying it is impossible. It will not happen. And I responded with powered flight will not happen for 10 million years. New York Times. That's you. That's what you sound like when you say FSD can't be solved. Go back 1 year. FSD was pretty good. It was a pretty sophisticated driver assist system.
Yeah.
In some cities, it worked fantastically. In a lot of places, it was downright dangerous, and people live in both places. Then you get to the 12 dot builds, and it is pretty magical. I am now an absolute believer. I test drive a lot of cars. Over the weekend, I had a chance to drive a Porsche Taycan. I had a chance to drive a Polestar 2 Performance Edition. I had a chance to, I get to drive all kinds of stuff. And all of them, I can only assess them as cars. These are pretty good cars. What they are not is autonomous. And I cannot imagine going back to being in charge of every aspect of my drive every day, micromanaging it. And now we're seeing early videos of version 13. People said, Brian, are you going to be releasing version 13 videos? I said, yeah, in like 6 months when I get it. So stay tuned for that. Tesla autonomy, put me on your radar, crying out loud. But we're seeing it unpark, drive, and park. We're seeing it do the whole drive. And that is, I mean, the gaps needed to make this work are closing quickly. So I'm pretty excited about that. I am more confident that the solution is just over the horizon than ever before.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. All right. Well, that's phenomenal. I'm very glad to know that we're, in rough agreement that 2027 is to get to 5 million cars in 2027 is probably okay in terms of production. Obviously, you still got to sell them or put them in your fleet. But as I said, that's maybe even easier than the production part.
If autonomy is solved by the end of 2025, then 5 million in 2027 is absolutely doable.
Right. Okay, then. Thanks, Brian. And to all of you out there, it has been, one last thing.
What's that?
Channel.
Oh, yeah.
Go visit him on his channel too. Thank you. It's been great talking to you.